Good evening. I'm Minister Johnny Banks Sr., Executive Director of A Knock at Midnight. Listen, it's good to be back on the show. A lot has been going on this past week. We got a lot to talk about in a short period of time. Tonight's, we wanted to have it entirely directed toward the violence that's going on in Chicago. As the violence upticks, it has to get our attention. It has to be something that grabs us. We're like, wow. When we hear the 50 shot or the 60 shot, and over this weekend, I think we had that number again, of close to 60 people shot, 17 murdered, youngest 14 on up the age spectrum. And it's some of the things that it just sometimes just captures your attention, and it stops you in your tracks, and you start to say, wow, man, what are we doing? Looking at the impact of this stuff, how it is impacting everybody in the city. And so Darius and I, we're going to talk about that this evening, and we're going to jumpstart it with something real simple, because I'm going to ask the young brother to chime in, because this is affecting his genre and his generation and his age group the most. And just let's get his take on what it is, why we think it's happening, and what we can do to address some of it. So talk to the people.
Okay. Yeah, so I think that the biggest thing is a deterioration of the black culture. I think what's happened is there's no collective anymore. So now we look at acts of violence as isolated events. Or it didn't happen on my block, or it didn't happen on my side of town, or in some way it doesn't identify with us at home. And so what we have now is people moving in silos, people feeling as if, well, I'm not going to speak out, I'm not going to act out because it doesn't necessarily hit home with me. And I think the biggest thing what has to happen, Minister, is residents of these communities have to really get involved. And so often we look for that involvement to come from the top, from an elected official, from a business or a community leader. But really it's the everyday people that really shift the narrative, that really turn these communities around. So what's happening is just a loss of collectivity. And I say that within the culture because if we'll look at other groups, gun violence, crime has a different spin. It isn't accepted throughout. I know a few weeks ago we talked about on the show that a culture, specifically the black culture, can shift from morality to consciousness. And so now what we have is we have an awakening of gun violence, an awakening of criminal injustices, but the morality is missing. So no one is willing to take that next step and do what needs to be done. It's this idea that, well, since you are in a certain position, you should fix it. Well, really, it is going to take a collective to fix it. So it has to be a collective. It has to be everyone. Everyone really has to take hold of their block, of their community. There's a big generational divide, a huge generational divide within the culture that, again, goes back to a collectiveness. So I really think it's important for our viewers today to listen to the issue, understand the issue, but know that you can make a difference. You can make a difference. You should make a difference. And in fact, if you're not making a difference, then ideally, what do they say? If you're not a part of the solution, then you are the problem. And I'm sorry to be so blunt with our listeners today, but if you're not a part of some solution, then you need to open your eyes and realize that you're a part of the problem.
Yeah, and it's amazing how you're talking about culture, and if we go into a broader view of that, the city of Chicago has a culture, and let's say that the subcultures are the communities, the Lithuanian community, the Asian community, the Hispanic community, the Chinese community, all these different communities. Let's call them subcultures. But the big culture, the culture, is the city. And I think that part of the problem is the city is so segregated and fragmented that these subcultures think that they have to fend for themselves. When the fact of the matter is, we really need to get into, do we love the city we live in? Because the city itself, not just communities, we can get off Inglewood and we can get off Austin and we can get off Lawndale. Let's stop the buffoonery right there. From 4:45 p.m. on Friday to 4:02 a.m. on Sunday, that was almost 60 people shot. Out of those numbers, about 17, 18 people died. But the fact of the matter is, the shootings occurred in Woodlawn, Washington Park, West Side, Brighton Park, South Side, Lawndale, the Southwest Side, South Shore, Auburn Gresham, South Austin, Lawndale again, Little Village, North Austin, West Garfield Park, Bronzeville, University Village, Uptown, Gresham, Archer Heights, South Shore, South Chicago, Ashburn, Humboldt Park, Chatham, Gresham, South Deering, Heart of Chicago, near West Side, Old Town, West Pullman, Roseland, East Garfield Park. That's all over the city. I named about 30 or 35 of the 77 community organizations. That's called the city, not a few communities. And I think until all of our elected officials, all of the clergy, everybody realize this problem is killing and destroying the people in our city, not just a few isolated communities as people would have us to believe. And until we come together as a city, not as a black community, not as a white community, but as the city of Chicago, we cannot solve this problem, because this problem is no longer isolated to Roseland, Inglewood, Austin, and the communities that everybody would like to point the finger at. This violence is happening all over the city. It is sweeping the city. It is taking away the viscosity that what holds this city together. We say that we are the city with broad shoulders. It's time to act like it, because we'll keep pointing the finger and we'll keep segregating ourselves and we'll keep having racism and bigotry from one community to the next, and we look up and we'll start seeing communities that are desolate, communities that exist no more. And sure, the desolation has started in the African American community, but we realize, and I think the numbers will bear us out, when school started, there were 12,000, 14,000 youth that were no longer part of the enrollment of Chicago Public Schools. That means families are moving away, not in droves, but moving away in big numbers. So as many people that's coming in, there's many people that is leaving. The tax rolls are going to start decreasing. Taxation is going to become a problem as they try to find more and more ways to tax the residents that are still here. So this thing is not isolated as people would want it to be isolated. As a matter of fact, if we look at this overhead, it shows all of those red dots, all of the different places where shootings occurred in the city of Chicago. If you can see, it's all over the city. It's everywhere. It's not concentrated in a particular community anymore. Generally, you will see all these dots either clustered on the south side or clustered south and west. But we all the way up north, Lincoln Park, Uptown, as far south as East Chicago. You all, we have a problem that we as a people are going to have to resolve, that we as a people are going to have to come together. We can stop the foolishness about ain't nobody talking. Well, ain't nobody talking on the north side either. Ain't nobody talking on Uptown either. Okay, so ain't nobody talking because you can't take a city as vibrant as Chicago, concentrate all of the resources in one place, have poverty on the perimeter of the city and in the heart of the city, and the people sit and bleed out from poverty, not from wounds, but from a lack of the necessities to have a decent life and a decent way of life. We're going to have to take a look at that. We're going to have to address that as a city, not as a community, and not as a race of people. This is going to have to be done, like you said, collectively. The collectivity, I think that's what you said. It's going to have to do something to bring us all together, because we can't continue to look for things that give us pleasure. Pleasure is temporal. It doesn't stay. So I pray the Cubs win the World Series, but it's going to end. I like to see the Bears win the Super Bowl. It's going to end. How much dancing can you do? How much drugs can you use? How much kicking it can? How much can you do to anesthetize yourself from the realities that we live in a killing field? Everybody that leaves home, you pray you make it back home. That doesn't matter if you live in Hyde Park. It doesn't matter if you live in Lincoln Park. It doesn't matter if you live in Beverly. It doesn't matter if you live in Inglewood. We all are now under the same stresses. And we have to do something about this, and it's going to have to be sooner rather than later. We've gotten distracted with Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump, and there's a whole lot of more things that are on the ballot that are way more important right now than who becomes president. And I was at a meeting this morning, our brother Darius, and they were talking about the judges that judge our children, that judge our people, that judge criminality, and that out of the whole city, county, in the areas, there's 400 judges, 400, of which I do not know one. And I'm sure of a lot of other people, if you're listening to me, you're probably going to say the same thing. You don't know any either. So we go into the ballot box and we vote for Michael Smith because we think Michael Smith sounds black. But only 52 of the 400 judges are African American. The rest of the judges are of different shades and hues and ethnic origins. You see what I'm saying? Yes, sir. So we find ourselves doing the buffoonery and the stupid again. Voting for people based on color and not on record. Voting for people based on what we think they are doing or who we think they are and not who they really are. This is the problem that we're having. We say we're looking for justice, but we know nothing about the justice system. Nothing. I mean, absolute. I had a quick lesson, and I was like, wow, I'm really ignorant about this stuff. I really don't know how this stuff really operates. You know, and so now, but come November the 8th, next Tuesday, all of the judges are going to be on the ballot. Mm-hmm. And people are going to vote for them based on their name. That sounds like somebody I should vote for. And we don't know the person's record. We don't know what moves them. We don't know anything about them. And we really, really have to slow ourselves down, because how can we solve an injustice by means of social justice, but we don't know how to get justice? I mean, when you just say it, it sounds crazy. So we want to stop an injustice. And many of us understand and how to utilize social justice. You know what I'm saying? But we don't know how to get justice. Something's wrong with this, man.
Yeah.
Something's wrong with this picture. And we hear the cries of the children. We hear the struggles of a people who just would like for things to get better. And people are going to work every day. They're getting up. They want things to be better. They want a different kind of life. But it's hard when underpinning and the reality around all this stuff is the current and the violence that does not stop. You know, it has not stopped. Hey, my name is Minister Johnny Banks Sr. I'm Executive Director of A Knock at Midnight. We're located at 400 West 76th Street in Suite 206. Our phone number over there is 773-488-2960. And I'm here with Darius, he's the CEO of Chasing 23, and we on every week with two different perspectives over the same reality, or sometimes our realities coincide and our perspectives and opinions coincide, because some of the things that we're dealing with are absolutely fatal to our future, to what we're doing. We saw over this weekend the large number of shootings that took place in Chicago, and we go again. We see those numbers and we reflect those numbers to see what they really look like all over the city, and you know, it's really interesting, and you know, so we struggle with that. We struggle with that whole thing, and you know, it's something else, you know. And I'm I'm just here with you to just say, we have to do something different. Our call-in number here is 312-738-1060. We've been waiting. If anyone who would like to call or comment, we ask that you feel free to call and comment. We're talking about the violence that has reared its head again in a gargantuan and a big number, something that is really amazing. We have a caller. Let's take a caller. Caller, are you there?
Yes, good evening. You are doing an excellent job. And see, but a whole lot of people hear you, but we are not acting on this because, like, when you spoke about what's going on citywide, a whole lot of it begins with us. I used to work for the city, and a lot of people don't know the building where you are used to be the Illinois Bell building. We need to get off of our rusty dusty and attend community meetings because what's going on is everywhere. I live in the Princeton Park community. Over the weekend, Saturday and yesterday, nothing but shooting up and down from 91st to 95th in Wentworth on both sides of the street.
Wow.
We know who they are.
Absolutely.
But number one, you think people will come to the meeting that's out here for them? No. They're listening to you, and that's all. But they're acting on it. It's terrible. And I've witnessed, we're giving these people jobs, but they are not appropriate taught about customer service skills. And it's killing us to death.
Absolutely.
So you continue on doing the excellent job that you're doing. And we got to get Howard Brookins out the 21st Ward. Thank you so much for accepting this call.
Caller, thank you for your comments. Again, we're talking about the violence that has sprung its head again, and I'm saying again because the numbers are staggering. Our call-in number here is 312-738-1060. If you'd like to have a question or comment, please call in and voice your opinion or make a comment. One of the things that kind of troubles me when it comes to the amount of violence that we're having is the lack of an outcry. This show is an outcry. This show is just a voice to saying, hey, what we're going to do, let's do something different. I can point the finger right now at a myriad of people, but one of the things I need to do is continue to do what I'm doing right now, and then let's try to awaken the consciousness of a people to try to encourage and stoke fire in people that we need to get up. We need to rise up, to rise above the trouble that we're having right now to the struggles of today, because nothing is going to change unless we do something about it. A very good friend of mine lost a son over the weekend, a very good friend of mine. I give my condolences to her and her mother, and I'm so sorry for your loss. And there's not a day go by that when my son leaves my presence that I don't ask God to send him back without me getting a phone call that he met an untimely death or he's been injured due to something that happened to him that was totally out of his control. That is no way for a parent to have to parent. There's no way for a young adult to have to live. There's no way for a young child to have to grow up. They say jobs, not bullets. I say justice. Justice. Many of our young people, we tell the truth about it, and if we get right down to the nitty gritty, they are underprepared to work. Underprepared. There's no amount of job training that's going to help them. So it becomes justice for these people. We see now that less than 1 out of 4 children that attend Chicago Public Schools can read. And a large body of those who are incapable of reading probably look like me. They need justice. We need to recalibrate and rethink this thing. That if you're seeking justice and you want to defeat injustice, then you have to know something about the justice system. This stuff has to be taught. This has to be something that we know. This has to be taught. And this has to be something that we know. Not what to do if you stop by the police. But how do you how do you come in and administrate the legislation of the people who are imparting and giving justice to all of the citizenry of Chicago, but particularly to the brown communities of Chicago? You know, it's not enough to go to jail and then learn a little justice while you locked up because you got some time. Our children need to learn it on this side of the cell before they go in. That same information can be taught. That same information can be learned. But it's hard when a whole system is anonymous. It's hard when we have as many judicial people as we have and nobody knows any of them. They are anonymous. The only time you see them is in a robe in a courtroom. But outside of that, they are totally anonymous. Nobody knows who they are. Maybe that's by choice, but if they are elected to judge us, then they should be public figures like everybody else. If they are elected, then we should know who these elected people are. And it's sad that we really don't know. And I guess there's a lot of reasons for that, but as a person who is a voter, who is registered in the city, who is registered in this country to vote, I think I need to have my choices not restricted simply because I don't know who a person is, but they're on the ballot, but nobody knows who they are. There's some changes. This is what I'm talking about, justice. If anybody's listening, these are the changes that has to occur because it's due to a lack of knowledge that we are perishing and we can't get justice. It's due to information being available but not being made available that we can see our struggle continue. Again, my name is Minister Johnny Banks, Sr. I'm the Executive Director of A Knock at Midnight. At A Knock at Midnight, we do a myriad of services. We run a myriad of programs that are all designed to keep our children safe, to keep families safe, to empower people with the knowledge and the skills to better themselves and to better their life, to create for them a more equitable lifestyle, something that they could be free and have liberty at the same time. We are located over in the Inglewood Auburn Gresham community at 400 West 76th Street. Our telephone number is 773-488-2960. Please call us. We always have employment opportunities, so if people are looking for employment opportunities, feel free to call us. As for Charlene Johnson, as for Jessica Green, they will assist you with whatever it is you may need. That's at 773-488-2960. For any counseling services you may need or parenting classes, domestic violence, services of that nature, they are all free. Call our Families Advocacy Center. Ask for Jessica Green. She will be more than happy to accommodate you, to assist you in the needs of yourself and your family. We are always out in the community knocking on doors. We have a truancy program, boots on the ground, students in the seats. If there are no students in the seats, then there's no resources available to the schools to educate our children. So we take great pride and we take very serious our work with doing community outreach around attendance case management, providing wraparound services to families in need, students in need, so that they can get in school and continue as best they can to develop what they need to educate themselves and to bring that education back to strengthen their own communities. Listen, this show goes very, very, very fast. We wanted to try to highlight the violence that has occurred this weekend and continue to shine a spotlight on the shootings, the murders, the loss of life, the tears of families, the broken hearts of mothers as they find ways or find the means to decently and in order bring a close to the life of their children who are lost due to gun violence. I don't wish those feelings on any parent. I don't wish it on any family. I don't wish it on any community. We're going to have to get up and become the solution to the problem of the fragmented city of Chicago, bring it back together so that we can change the course of this city, change the course of the lives of so many people. Listen, my name is Minister Banks. Always remember that in the darkest hour, truth and knowledge are the way. Good evening, and God bless you.